Time for our weekly conversation with pride of the Jaguars running back Fred Taylor, and this is Fred Taylor's kind of weekend, I would imagine. The cocktail party, Florida, Georgia on Saturday, and then Jaguars-Steelers on Sunday. It doesn't get much better than that, Fred.
JP, it is heaven. It is heaven for me this week. I got to correct you really quickly. It's not just the cocktail party. It's the world's largest cocktail party. Like, you have to put emphasis on world's largest cocktail party between the Gators and the Bulldogs. Absolutely love this weekend. Always looking forward to it. Win, lose, or draw. I prefer the win. But it's just an amazing time to get back to Jacksonville. Not just myself, former teammates, guys that I played against in this game that became teammates and eventually brothers of mine. First guy that jumps out is Marcus Stroud, amazing friend of mine. I thought we almost had him at the University of Florida. I hosted him on a recruiting trip. And the next time I see Marcus, he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated, ripping out of a Gator t-shirt with a Bulldog t-shirt underneath. And I wanted to go and do something to him and rough him up. But we ended up playing in that game my senior year, his freshman year, and they beat us. He had a good game. He, Richard Seymour, other guys that I've become really good friends with, Robert Edwards over the years, Champ Bailey, Boss Bailey, and so many others from that team. Big George Foster, offensive lineman. But yeah, man, just great time for football. Great time for the city of Jacksonville. It boosts the local economy. It provides jobs for the weekends. Everybody looks forward to it. I'll have a few cocktails myself, safe, responsible drinking cocktails. And I'll be rooting on my Gators. Like I said, win, lose, or draw, I'll be high-fiving and jiving and enjoying myself.
We'll see if the Gators can knock off the Bulldogs. Georgia has come in with a 24-game win streak. It's now the third longest win streak of any SEC team ever. And the last time they lost in the regular season, though, was back in 2020 against the Florida Gators. We'll see if they can get it done again this Saturday. Then we turn.
There was a lot going on then, JP. It was a lot going on in 2020. I mean, hey, hopefully we can get the same result this year. Not as much is going on, but we had to pivot and do a whole lot of stuff in 2020. But we got the win, so hopefully we can bring it back.
Yeah, there was a different head coach. The quarterback, Kyle Trask, was there. Of course, Kyle Pitts. And they knocked Stetson Bennett out of the game, and they got 3 interceptions on defense that day, the Gators did. That's what it took. This game always has something weird, an ejection or a recovery. Or like
that's another reason why you throw the records out.
Yeah.
You throw the records completely out, and everybody comes and they have the time of their life tailgating, and some people don't even make it in the stadium because they're having too much fun, but they hear about it. They can rewatch it. Nowadays you can easily rewatch it. But end result, we would certainly love to see the Gators win, or at least I would. And maybe you might too, because the Bulldogs kind of stole a bit of your Bama Crimson Tide glory. But I digress. We won't have to talk about that. We can just, we can pivot or segue into the Steelers now, if you would like.
Well, I would say this. I'm a neutral observer on Saturday, calling the game on Westwood 1. I'm right down the middle, straight and narrow on Saturday.
For sure. All right. Put a little extra sauce on it for the Gators, though, okay? Like, you got control of that.
I'll see what I can do. Let us pivot, and yes, as you said, go to the Jaguars-Steelers matchup. The Jaguars historically have played well in Pittsburgh. Last 9 trips to Pittsburgh since 99, the Jags have won 7 of those, including the 2 playoff games. So you take good football teams that travel. It happens that those years, the Steelers have been on the schedule a lot. So you can't be intimidated by the place up there. It should be a good matchup, though. It's almost mirror images. This is a Steelers team that's, winning kind of ugly. The Jaguars haven't quite hit their stride on offense yet. We're playing good defense, so a good test this week.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great test, but as you mentioned, first and foremost, you can't be intimidated by, the dressing. Back in the day, the steel curtain, that was the one thing that was a huge intimidation factor. And Jacksonville was a young team who actually in that same division said, no, we're not going to be, once again, treated like, the bottom or the little brother in this division. And with Coach Coughlin and his mindset, the teams that he sort of built to be physically tough and to be able to go and play in any conditions, whether it be the weather, the heat, he did not care. You lined up and it was smash mouth football. And that's just been a history of this rivalry. This yeah, I can call it a rivalry because it's so much great back and forth. It's not an interconference rivalry, much like the Titans, but I mean inter division rivalry. I'm sorry, like the Titans, but it's always a great matchup. And even now, as you mentioned it, without Big Ben, without some of the usual suspects that we're so used to seeing over the past decade and a half with the Steelers, they still had the same mindset. That their mentality is defense, defense, defense. They're going to win their games through defense, or at least set themselves up. The Super Bowls that they've won in the last 20 years, the two that they won, it came from great defensive performances. And I don't want to get through all of those great players that they had on all those defenses. But even now, led by TJ Watt, he inspires the whole team. He's a guy that can change the outcome of the game. Last week, I believe he just kind of came off of a play and had an interception that he started running like a running back on the return. Such a great player, man, and he earns every accolade that he's received since he's been in the NFL. And on the flip side, it's a good challenge for our offense, for our defense. Kenny Pickett, he's a guy who's still coming along. He's fiery, he's feisty. We had him on the pivot. A guy who believes in his ability. The team believes in him. You throw in George Pickens in that fold, a big receiver who can get it done. And he's hungry, and he wants to prove that he's one of the better receivers in the NFL. Ryan Clark, my co-host on the other show, The Pivot, he went as far to say George Pickens is as talented or maybe has more talent than Justin Jefferson, Jettis over in Minnesota. And I was like, whoa, that's big. He's like, no, I'm not being biased. I study players, and it's the truth. So the defensive backs are going to have their hand full. I can't forget about Najee right there in the backfield. So they have a nice group of running backs too. So it should be a solid ball game. I expect it to be a close ball game with the Jaguars winning.
Fred Taylor with us, pride of the Jaguars running back. Trevor Lawrence playing through the knee issue last Thursday night in the Superdome, wore the brace. Right. He was the leading rusher in the game, oddly enough, which is crazy. But that tells you a lot about the way he fought through and played in that game. And they had a lull middle of the game on offense, but when it mattered, he made the throw to Christian Kirk. Christian ran 44 yards for the touchdown, and it was good night once the defense got their final stop of the night. But to have Trevor playing through that knee issue, he's still going to have the brace this week, Fred, but it tells you a lot about his want to and ability to be out there.
Yeah, I just love, to see that sort of performance from Trevor. I do want to ask you, because I know you're such a great researcher. You got all of the stats. I don't recall the last time a Jaguars quarterback led the game in rushing. It led the team in rushing in a game, but I'm pretty sure you got it. You got it somewhere, or we'll go find it. We'll let everybody know what that was.
I would guess that maybe Minshew, maybe a game or two, had a weird one.
Yeah, I would think Gardner probably did during that
Certainly,
time.
maybe Blake, but he had Fournette, so maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
It's tough, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's been done, but either case, just to show the gutsy performance by Trevor to make the game in a short week. A Thursday night football, we have to remind everybody, it's a Thursday night game. Big, heavy brace. I absolutely despise those braces. But it does re-encourages the confident just being out there. It feels more stable, and it allows them to go out there and just have the mindset that I don't have to just focus on the knee. I got to focus on my job at hand. And once that adrenaline gets going, he's such an ultimate pro and competitor. He's going to get out there and just forget about his knee or what it feels like. That adrenaline is going to take him to another level. And we've seen Trevor from college be that way, where he leads his guys, and now here with Jacksonville. But even more importantly, to go a step further, man, the offensive line, JP, they knew what was at stake. They knew they had to protect Trevor versus a really good Saints defensive front. And they went out, didn't allow sack, didn't allow any hits or pressures on the quarterback, which is so well. They allowed some pressure. What was that, like 8%?
It wasn't many.
It was a hand low.
Less than 5.
Yeah, whatever that percentage is, that don't really matter in this day and age. And for analytics, maybe, but he didn't get hit in real time. He didn't get hit. He didn't get sacked. So you can only imagine how good he must have felt to go out there and be able to do everything and make the throws he made and lead his team to a victory. This week will be different. The Steelers they got a former NFL Defensive Player of the Year in there, and they have some other guys back there. They have really good secondary, veteran Pat Peterson on the other side, Joey Porter Jr.
Minka Fitzpatrick's back there.
Minka Fitzpatrick, very smart free safety. So it's a different makeup this week. Their Steelers defense is, as I mentioned a second ago, I think is better than their offense in terms of leading their team to victory. So it'll be a different matchup. I think the coaches will have a better game plan this week. You'll probably see the running backs chip a bit more on those DNs and then release out into check downs. The Steelers play a lot of zone blitz. They'll be able to get some check down opportunities off the zone blitz. And I think they'll also be able to take a few shots this week versus that secondary. So, again, I expect it to be a really good game with the Jaguars coming out on top.
Fred Taylor with us. And, what could change the game plan for both teams is the weather. There's an 80% chance, as we record this, an 80% chance of rain on Sunday throughout the game. We'll see how heavy that is. The Jaguars, the last time there was a monsoon rainstorm, that was in Philly last year. That didn't go so well.
No, that one didn't. But we're not in Philly, thank God. We are in Heinz Field, Pittsburgh.
Acrisure Stadium, Fred. They changed the name.
Acrisure, that's right. Acrisure, yeah. Dang it. I knew that. I wrote it down somewhere. But the last time we played there and the weather was awful, twice in a short span. I believe that was the 2007 season. Mm-hmm. Back to back, we had a snow game and then we had a freezing cold, frigid game. And we went up there and we handled our business, which is what I expect the Jaguars team to do. And even more so, it just means let's just run the ball more. I think you'll take a load off the quarterback, and he can just turn around and hand it off to ETN. Ball security will be, one of those things that you have to pay close attention to. But I think the Jaguars can run the ball on this defense.
Fred, best of luck to the Gators, and we'll talk to you in the post game after the Jags-Steelers matchup.
You mean after the win?
Yes. After the win, is that a lock?
Of course, I'm going to lock it. I hope nobody's out there betting because I say lock. Bet because you want to do that on your own time. Just a disclaimer. I say lock because lock is a 4-letter word like love, and I love my Jaguars, and I don't care what's going on. I'm going to say they're going to win. I'm always going to feel confident that they're going to win. One, it's my team. Two, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. Last week, all types of stuff happened last week in the NFL with a few losses. That's why I say it's a lock, JP, because I'm confident my guys can go and play a good game versus a good opponent. Yeah.
The master of 4-letter words, Fred Taylor. It's nice to talk to you. We'll see you later, man.
Later.